Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, we talk about learning how to trade futures. I'm in the process of learning, and I'm kind of just sharing my journey as I learn. So the book that I have been reading is Price Action Trading Ranges by Al Brooks, and in this book he talks a lot about breakouts, and today we had some really, I would say, textbook breakouts that followed everything that I've been learning to a T. So I wanted to share them with you because I thought it's like a really good learning example that happened today. Okay. So first of all, this was like in the middle of the night and stuff's not really moving all that much, but we start to see an upward trend, and I see 1, 2, 3 points on that touch this line. So we have this gently sloping upward trend happening. And you can see we kind of have it kind of has like a leg up, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down, but it's not really very well defined here, probably because of the time period, but we start to get more well defined. And here you can see a pretty clear leg that comes all the way down and touches, a leg that goes up, a leg that comes down again and touches. And so this is our third touch. So at that point, I feel confident in this trend line. And also you can see every time our highs are getting higher. So here was a high, here's a high, here's a high. It's going up, up, up. Okay. And then this time we come down, and this downward leg, I would say, forms more of a channel. Like you see how these downward legs are, sure, you could draw channel lines. You can, but they're like just really small, and it's pretty much just kind of down. But this one, we kind of go like up and down as we're coming down to come back to the trend line. So that's why I drew a top and a bottom trend line for this downward leg. And what you notice, and also this is when markets opened, so stuff is starting to get more volatile. And what I notice is we come down to this line, to this trend line. Here we kind of wick off of it. So I'm thinking at this point, maybe we're heading back up. It seems like we're heading back up, but then we start heading back down. And so anytime that you don't go all the way back up to the top of the trend line, then that might let you know that something is devolving in this particular trend. So we come back down, and here we actually close below we close below this trend line, like this large, gently sloping trend line. We close below it. So this is our first breakout right here, breakout of this trend. And the trend that we're breaking out of is this larger general trend, but we still appear to be inside this smaller trend channel. So we break out right here, and then we have one bar that comes down and a third bar that comes down. And after this third bar that comes down, we start going back up again. And one of the things that Al Brooks tells us about breakouts is that they will always be tested, or I shouldn't say always, but I think they're almost always tested. So the point at which we break out is often a place that's retested, although it doesn't have to be the exact point. So anyways, we come all the way down to the bottom of this trend channel line, and we come up and we are retesting this large trend line. So we're trying to see, I guess, the validity of this trend line. And when we hit that trend line, we reverse back down. And so we have another leg down. We come very close to this bottom of the trend channel line, and then we start heading back up again. So I note that this first breakout, so it definitely does break out of the trend, but if you notice, we don't go that far below the trend line. Let's do some measurements and see exactly how far below. For example, if you had bought at this breakout, at the close after the breakout, then you could have potentially made 75-ish points, or if we go by the close at 62, that would be a lot of money, but it's not like a really big, huge breakout. So I would say this is sort of like a moderate breakout. And at this point, we reverse up, and look at this. We go now, as we're going up, we break out of this smaller trend that we're in, like this trend channel right here. We break out of this top trend line, our trend channel line. And so this would be the bar that breaks out of it, and because it's exiting this trend. And what do? We head right back up to this larger trend line and we retest it. So we have now tested it I guess we exited it here, we tested it here, we retested here. So that's the second time that we tested this trend line. We test this trend line and we quickly are rejected. We wick off of it and we move down pretty fast. Look, these are some large downward trend bars that come down from that trend line. And when we come down, what do? We once again test this breakout. Remember how I said that we almost always retest a breakout, and one of the places that we can retest is basically the trend line that we broke out of. So we broke out of the trend line here, we come up, we test this trend line, and then we come back down and test this trend line. And then at this point, when we test it, it sort of looks like this breakout that we had wasn't that strong, because we only get like one big solid trend bar, and then we have, I would call this a doji, and then we come back down. So that doesn't seem very strong, but we get some sideways movement. And one of the things that Al Brooks says is that if you have a breakout that's not really that strong, but then you get sideways movement, it could be that it's like a building up its momentum and it's going to be a really big breakout. And so that is what I think happened here. We tested this breakout trend line. We did a little bit of sideways movement here, and we're just kind of like gaining our momentum. And then all of a sudden, wow, we take off. I mean, look at how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trend bars in a row. So this is our first leg of this breakout, I would say. I mean, you could technically call it ever since like from this bar all the way to here is a leg, but we kind of really got our steam here. So here's our first leg. And then we had a little tiny pullback. I mean, this is the smallest pullback, one single bar. Now, if I was watching this diligently, then on this green bar is where I would have bought. Like, this would have been a perfect, beautiful, wonderful place to buy, but I wasn't watching it at this point. I had kind of like watched it earlier and then I had gone off to do something else. So I wasn't watching it that close. But what we know is that whenever we have these big breakouts like this, a lot of times it's going to be a measured move, which means this first leg, and then we're going to have a pullback, and then we're going to have a second leg that will be just about the same length or height, however you want to call it, as the first leg. So this one is equal to this one. So we gained just about the same amount of bars. And let's do a measurement so I can prove that point to you. This one was 109. If I go from candle bodies, 109. And over here, if I go from bottom candle body to top candle body, so 121. So even more. Definitely this would have been a good place to enter. But I wasn't there. I didn't enter there. But I started paying attention to it up here, like once we started having some pullback. And once we started having some pullback, I noticed that like this was such a huge breakout that I felt like we were going to retest this pullback area. When you have like this many green bars in a row, this one was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, again, green bars in a row. It's definitely going to do some kind of retesting. And this pullback area is a common place that it can retest. So whenever we had these bars in here, I decided to enter a trade. Now, if I had been diligent, I would have entered probably on this first red bar, because it's pretty clear at this point that we're not going to keep going up, 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 up. So I think that would have been a good place to enter and see for possibly a retest. But anyways, I didn't catch it at the exact perfect time, which is the point that I'm trying to make. You don't have to catch it the exact perfect time. Just so long as you have an idea of what might happen. And I didn't know for sure that we were going to retest this, but I had, as Al Brooks says, he talks about like percentages and probabilities, and I figured we had at least a 60% chance that we were going to have a pullback and a retest of somewheres around here. So that's why I did that. And I actually kind of like kept my risk. It would have been nicer to have it go all the way down here. It would have been a full 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. But I was like, well, we're coming to the end of the day. Maybe it won't go all the way back down to here, because sometimes we lose steam at the end of the day. But anyways, it ended up being a really good trade. I just wanted to share that with y'all because I thought it was kind of a textbook breakout day that is perfect for learning. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you next time.